G'day and welcome to Star Citizen Leaks. I'm Hater. Oh no, I'm not Hater. I'm Execute, and he's Hater. Stuffed it up totally. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm Execute. I'm Australian, and I don't swear as much as Hater.
Yeah, I don't know. I could be pushed to it if I get that right there. All right, so we've got a guest today. He's the man with smooth jazz for a voice, Mr. Dig That. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks for bringing me on the show. I'm sure this will be airing on broadcast TV sometime later tonight, right?
Yeah,
Of
real
course.
soon. All right, so Dig, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. How long you been doing Star Citizen videos for?
Been doing Star Citizen videos since the CitizenCon of 2018.
Right.
So I hopped in there. Computer was not really up to the task, but decided to get it done anyway. It's been all good since then.
All right. And you started out doing Elite Dangerous videos?
Yeah. Started out in Elite. It's a really good run, but just kind of blew through the content from the things that moved me, and so I didn't want to just retread the old ground. So I'm on Star Citizen now, and it's a beautiful ride.
All right, glad you're enjoying it. Where can people find you, man?
DigThat32. Just search DigThat32, or just type Star Citizen in YouTube, and I'm at the top of the screen. That's my mining mining tutorial. So
yeah,
if you're looking for me, I'm out there.
Yeah. I really enjoy the videos of yours that I've watched because, as I said, you've got those, fat beats in the background and you've got that really, smooth voice, and it's almost like you're rapping as you speak. I really enjoy it. So, yeah, check it out and let us know what you think of these videos in the comments below. All right, Hater, so what do you got to show for us today? Because I know you and I have been mulling over this for a couple of months now, this one, and we've had information of this ship kind of like that we've had to join together from different places. So I'll let you kick it off, man. What are we showing today?
Okay, so I think it's good to preface this by saying how much of a pain in the ass this has been. I've had to ask like 10 different freaking people to get all the information I have on this, and even then, we're still missing a lot. Like, once we start showing images, we'll talk about what we're missing, but we will... it's missing some stuff, and even what we have today still isn't the fullest picture. But it's this full picture we're going to get of something this early or maybe mid-late into concept development. Just to go into how we have something like this, some random Discord account with a bunch of letters and numbers in their name sent me 3 screenshots. And I'm like, oh, what are these? And yeah, along with the 3 screenshots, he just tells me RSI gunboat. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I send the screenshots screenshots, quote unquote. Some schmuck took some photos with a camera, even though like this was peak COVID. CRG already went home. They were just fucking with me. I don't know why. I sent this to to 2 of my better sources who actually know what they're talking about and are willing to give me some information. They said that it was real. And I just been going off of real, and I haven't heard anything to really go back on it being real at all. So
yeah, and that even connected to dots of things that I'd been given, like I've been given lore pieces from way back in CitizenCon last year, and they actually connect up with this as well. So we'll probably go into that a little bit later. But yeah, should we show the people what we've got?
Yeah, well, just real quick, if you could see from that little image behind us, that big bushy beard man, that is the Allfather, Odin himself. That he's the Allfather, right? That's Odin.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The RSI Odin is what this ship is called. Let's just go take a look at it right now.
All right, here we go.
Yes,
Look at
this
that.
big boy right here. This is the RSI Odin. This thing is around 100 meters long, and it's fitted with just a lot of guns. That's about all we'll go off at the beginning right now. Do you guys have any impressions?
My first impression when I first saw it was like a Polaris and a Javelin had a baby.
Yeah, I could definitely kind of see that. I mean, this looks like it bumps up RSI's cachet a little bit, because for right now, if you want a gunboat, you kind of got to settle for the Connies. It's got 2 turrets, but this looking like a beast here.
Yeah. So we're obviously looking at a model that we've had remodeled, haven't we, Hater? Because we couldn't actually show the screenshots for obviously protecting source reasons. So this isn't 100% accurate. This has been redone by someone in our community.
Yeah, some lovely community person, which I will just note now, they did not want to be mentioned by name due to not wanting to have this associated with the name, but we're just going to have this little section to say, thank you. You really came through to us, and you got this done in like a weekend. Like, insane time.
He definitely smashed it out.
Did.
But yeah, look, we always try to give credit where credit's due. But if people don't want credit, we'll still thank them. But yeah, we're not going to give credit. So let's kind of break down the really obvious thing that stands out. Usually after you've taken a couple of seconds, like what are these kind of winglets or shield things on the side of the ship? And we've speculated quite a bit on this, but. Do you want to kick it off, Hader, and kind of say where you're kind of at the moment? What you think they are?
Okay, so something that doesn't come through in this model 100%, but will come through if you saw the images, of course, is a little. These things are hydraulically lifted somehow for some reason. Talking with some people, I've just been giving winks whenever I get like close to any sort of conclusion. So I'm not 100% on this. However, I'm pretty confident that they've given me a wink in jest that I've gotten close to the solution. AKA those things, to make this thing a gunboat, of course, those are broadside cannons that those little winglets are hiding. Those things are powerful freaking cannons that would probably barely have any sort of rotation. Like, if you, like a turret today, like, what would make, if these were turrets, we were thinking, what would make it different to a hammerhead or anything with side turrets is a priority? And the thought occurred, heavily armored broadsider. And that's essentially what I've been told is about the right idea. I haven't been told what sizes are on these things. All I just know is that those things are definitely hiding cannons.
Yeah, well, one of the other things we went through early, wasn't it, was we even thought planetary bombardment at one point. You know, there was a whole bunch of stuff we went through. So, but yeah, until we actually got those winky faces, we were kind of a little bit stupefied. But
you think it's got range for planetary bombardment?
We obviously, like, there's a couple of things that pointed to why the ship has things underneath it. So why does it have landing gear on the side? So these little I'll zoom in just so you can see what I'm talking about. So these little things between the shield plates are actually the landing gear, and on the images, you can't see it here on the model, but you can actually see pistons, so you can actually tell that they're landing gear and they're meant to go down, and they're obviously on both sides of the vehicle. Now, most RSI ships have their landing gear directly underneath the vehicle. Why would it need to have them off to the side unless there's something else underneath there? And so initially I thought, well, it must have downwards facing guns, and I talked about that with Hader, and you know, we went back and forth, and then then it's evolved from there to the planet to broadside rather than planetary bombardment. But yeah, there's just some really weird things about this ship. That's all.
That changes everything, because I thought you were saying that what you just said are the landing gear. I thought those were the guns, because I was like, there's no way the bigger ones are the guns.
So these bigger so yeah, these bigger ones are kind of like shields that cover the guns, and this is these are like a hydraulic lift thing as well, and they clearly move these shields, I just call them shields or winglets, up and down. And what we're thinking at the moment is they might even be a part of the gun themselves, and they actually kind of aim the gun, or are they actually a shield? So again, from the images, it's a little bit unclear. So it's very different ship. Like, it's unlike anything we've seen. As you know, maybe from above it's like a mini javelin, but like, it's just clearly, yeah, I don't know. Hader, what's your call on it, man? Like just aesthetically, it's very different, yeah.
Well, aesthetically, I get the two inspirations, which is the Bengal carrier engine, which I know you said javelin, but if you do some comparisons, the big difference is a bunch of goddamn antennae, and this thing has them for days. Like, that's something that came out pretty accurately with this 3D model. because that's something as a huge little. It's a huge design theme of the.
You're clearly right. It is more Bengal, and I just went with my initial impression from the very first time I ever saw it. But you are correct. Yeah, as you take more time to look at it, it clearly is Polaris and Bengal influenced. Yeah, and as you said, the aerials are definitely the case. So let's one of the other more interesting things I want to talk about real quick, and DG might find this of interest, is this is a standardized turret here as well. On top of this, and this head is probably a little bit bigger than a Polaris. So the really interesting thing is there's actually a second cab back here and this really massive turret. And we've speculated again on this, like, so if you think about the broadside, this might be almost like a command and control platform for the guns, is one of the things I've speculated. And that is a big ass turret. How big would you reckon they are? You and I have talked about this, but I think it's roughly a size, kind of like what's on the Nautilus, size 7 guns.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'd say the best thing to compare it with is, especially at the time when those turrets were bugged out and way bigger. The only ship I could think of with massive guns that just outshone the ship itself was that javelin gun on the top. But it's definitely not the same size. Like. It looks as big of a size difference as the javelin gun, and this thing isn't the javelin's like a kilometer or something, or no, that's the retribution. It's like 300 meters or something. It's not. This thing doesn't dwarf a 300-meter ship at all.
No. So Dig, what do you kind of think of having a really big turret like that on the center top of the ship, like compared to being like on the nose, like say something like the Nautilus? Do you think you get this is like indicative of a defensive turret?
Yeah, I mean, because it's got the clearance to turn around and defend its backside. It's got a good view right there. The problem is, since like I was checking out the new turret gameplay, turrets are going to be insanely fierce to get by for anybody. So somebody else is going to have an answer to this, and or else it's over. You see one of those show up, you got to go move. You got to pack up all your things and get out of there.
Popped like a fucking balloon.
Yeah. One of the other interesting things that we can pass on from the actual images as well is these guns. They look unique. Like they're not like any gun I've seen before. Hater, like how would you describe them from the images that we've got?
Uno momento. Distract with fun other point while I go get the image because I don't have it open on my end.
It's kind, from memory. It's kind of like really large coils. They almost look like Tesla coil things. I'd almost think there's some kind of like that new Lightning Co company. That's kind of what I saw when I looked at it, but I could be completely wrong in that regard. But yeah, I've questioned several things like why it's got 2 cabs, and the only thing I can come back to is that this is some kind of viewing platform for guns. Whether you control the guns from in here is, obviously you would have to see the final design to understand that, but yeah, it's definitely very unique having a front and back cab. I'm trying to think of another ship that has that, and the closest thing I can get to is the 890 Jump, and that's more of a battle bridge than a control center.
Okay, so I got the image. I think we need to put a little bit of a clarification in. Or I got the okay, so first things first. That cab, that gun, we used. Okay, so the guy, to save some time, used very exact models. Like they grabbed whatever CIG uses for default turret models and they threw them on.
Yep.
The thing that's not accurately portrayed about that top turret, and I'm just gonna send DigThat this reference because I feel like it's necessary to talk forward on it because you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
I know what I'm talking about. Now, DigThat will know what I'm talking about for seeing that little image. The cab is approximately the same size as those turrets. That's something that's not accurately portrayed here. Like those turrets on the top are as big as that cab. Like they should be touching one end of the cab to the other end of the cab.
They're really long. They're like ridiculously long, yeah.
I wouldn't be so sure on whether or not that matters in the long run for what the turrets are. Like the turrets they use in these concepts are typically just ones they grab and they throw them on there. Like turrets are the absolute last consideration for throwing something up.
Yeah.
That is something that it's something that's standardized. So why even put too much consideration in it?
One thing,
you built those cabs out later when you're about to release the ship. You don't build them now.
One thing I can tell from being in the game industry is this model is further along than most people would expect. It's actually they've started to integrate polygons into each other, so it is not a kit bashed model. This thing is further along in development than you would realize, because they've actually started to integrate pieces together, like joining the polygons and stuff like that. So it's not just a kit bash thing, but there are kit bash pieces on it, like Haters mentioning, like the turrets and stuff like that. Which can obviously...
You got to tell us news what a kit bash is.
So a kit bash is basically like where you take different parts of ships and smash them together, almost like what I was saying, like with where the Polaris and the Javelin had a baby. They might take the engines off one ship and the head off another, and they just sit them next to each other so they can get the look right. You might have seen it on things like Inside Star Citizen, that where they get the concept developer lady on, I forgot her name, Sarah I think her name is, and she uses 2D images or silhouette images and basically tries to find a silhouette of the ship that she likes, and then she details it out. It's exactly the same thing, just in 3D. And then you end up getting, a really cool silhouette like we've got for this ship, and they've obviously done things like putting these wings on, and that are all to kind of create that that silhouette and the stance. So this has got a very defensive stance, as you can tell from the X. So yeah, you go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I think we're going to mention defense. I think we should talk about that possible leak or those wires that got crossed earlier a couple days ago when we were discussing. Okay, so I think just to preface this all, the Odin is something that was brought to us a little bit more recently than everything else. That's usually a theme with these leaked concepts, is that we find out about the name last freaking second. Yeah. Now, when we figured out the name, and because we haven't really talked too much, if you're familiar with the Info Runners, you would hear that Execute has brought up the idea of an Anvil Odin, a ship that is a kind of fighter. I think you'd do a better description of what you thought the Anvil Odin was, or what you think.
Yeah, okay. So the leak that we kind of had hinted at that it's a larger ship, something similar to the Kraken and the Idris, and this came from kind of like a lore piece. And basically, the way it described it, it came around the time CitizenCon was out, and so a lot of people that showed it to us basically assumed that it was something to do with Anvil, because Anvil was the ship manufacturer from last year, and it was apparently meant to be the ship that came instead of the Privateer. And a lot of people, when they talk about the Privateer, go, it looks rushed and blah, 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 so you can kind of see what we're thinking back then. But now we've kind of got this ship in our hands. It looks like it may have changed manufacturer and gone from Anvil to RSI, or maybe it's been RSI the whole time. It's hard to tell, obviously. But yeah, now, this is very clearly now RSI.
Yeah. So when mentioning that, the reason I mention that is because we're just going to read off a bit of that description for what was theorized, but because there's a bit of a lore bit was written supposedly for this, so we're just going to read out a bit which is more related to the ship function rather than some of the external lore bit, which doesn't matter too much. But basically, he compares the ship to the Idris and the Kraken, in which those focus a little bit on the multi-tier kind of stage, where it's like, oh, the Idris and the Kraken, they kind of have a reliable, or they kind of rely on either repair decks or internal hangars or some sort of additional thing to just pure attack and defense power. They don't focus entirely on armor. They don't focus entirely on weapons. They focus, they might focus a lot more into those aspects, but there's always a secondary focus just in case. If I want to have an Idris, it'd be easier to defend with a Gladius or something. So I'll throw a Gladius in my Idris or something like that. The Odin is supposed to be, according to this text blurb, entirely combat. This thing is heavily armored, as can be seen from all those from all the armor defending the guns, and it's heavily shielded as well. And because of this single focus, because like you can do that heavy armor, heavy guns with the other ships as well, because it's so leaning towards those two things, it's also faster. So it's just way more efficient in what it is. Like this thing is essentially the light fighter of capital ships.
Yeah,
it's probably the best way to put it.
So in that lore post, the real big thing that stood out for me is like it gives up the flight deck, and obviously you don't need pilots and stuff like that. So and they actually talk about that in the post, like, you know, certain crew members are happy that there's no pilots, etc., etc. So I think it greatly, as you've kind of stated, Hater, it greatly reduces the size of the ship for more function. Dig, what's your kind of initial thoughts on giving up, you know, something a size like the Idris or the Kraken just to have more pure function? Does that sound like more positive to you?
I mean, it depends on what the missions are for this type of shit, because as I'm looking at it, I mean, it's got the all the antennae, so it's looking to collect data. I think this is kind of a search and destroy type of thing, which the Kraken and all those things are capable of. But I think this is kind of a better get in and get out kind of mission accomplished, let's go home kind of thing, as opposed to the bigger ships that can basically occupy anywhere they go.
Yeah. Well, my kind of instinct leads me to that if the Polaris is, say, something like the tip of the spear, and it's kind of like a glass cannon, this is a more tanky, robust, armored, so it's, you kind of got your DPS in the Polaris, where this is more of a tanky, hold-out fighter that just kind of wins through attrition. That's kind of where I think this is going. But what do you guys think in that regard?
I think we got to get a look at because the guns, the broadside guns, the turrets, it can't be the only thing. If it has like a big beast underneath it, like the Idris do, like the rail guns and all that, if it has something under there, I think that's going to be the telling feature.
Now we can get to that part.
Yeah.
Under, down, below, all of those adjectives not included. Why? Because we got 3 random phone shots, and you want to know where those shots were taken. 1 shot was top down, and 2 shots were basically of the same angle at about, I think you see that angle we have now. Imagine that a little bit higher.
Yeah, I'll turn off the thing and I'll kind of give him a rough idea here. It was kind of like this.
No, it was like a little higher up, but either way, it was given. Yeah, it was like that, but it wasn't like much of a curve. Like I think one of them was like straight on. Like
yeah,
it doesn't matter too much. I think being too specific is a bad thing. But either way, this thing, we don't know what the bottom looks like. The model itself seemed to hint at some sort of bottom deck, which could be loaded with a shit ton of missiles, a shit ton of railguns. We don't know.
We don't even know what the guns are, do we? We don't know if they're railguns. We don't know if they're bombs. We don't know what they are. So
that's why if you peek at the bottom, we just have nothing. It's because we got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that we I tried talking with other people on, and it's something that even the images themselves have peaks under. But we did not feel comfortable enough moving forward with that kind of idea, especially with the biggest wrench in all of that were those landing gear bits. Those were visible and seemed to be right at the same area of those armored tidbits or whatever you call them.
Yeah. So it's like, just really, it's kind of like I alluded to it earlier. It's just really weird. Why would you have the landing gear off to the side if there isn't something underneath that they're in the way of? So yeah. Let us know in the comments, like, what do you guys think the guns could be on this? Do you think they're broadsiders? Do you think they're bombs? Like, just tell us what you think, because like we're in the same boat you guys are. Like, I'm pretty sure you're all sitting there running it through your head right now, going, "Well, what the hell could this be?" So let us know in the comments your thoughts on what you think it could be. Dig, speaking of which, what do you think it could be? Do you think they are broadsides? Do you think they're railguns? Like, what does your instinct tell you?
I mean, my best guess is that they're broadsides. And they got they're armored. Those lift up. Surprise, surprise, mother. And you get a handful.
Nice reference. Yeah. Yeah. No,
I think it might be a capital. It might be a capital ship fighter. I mean, because that protects it from all the those smaller ships taking out the guns, and it's just skirts along the side of a capital ship, takes it out, moves on, rearms, does it again.
I get that Polaris feeling. Like, as I said, I think it's like a tank to the Polaris's kind of glass cannon. That's the feeling I get. And I actually think they'll kind of work in tandem fairly well, like one going in and distracting as the Polaris, and then this one kind of would be the one that kind of hangs around and picks things off. So, yeah.
What's the length on the hammerhead?
Length on the hammerhead, geez, I would have to pull up an
literally
image
100 meters. It's literally like 100 meters. I think it might be a little less, might be 95, but like this thing is, well, when I said 100 meters, I'm kind of rounding down. Like it's a little higher than that. I don't want to give an exact measurement, but
you can probably work it out yourself if you look at the turret there. You can probably extrapolate how big it is just based on the size of the turret. So yeah, there's one other interesting thing I do want to point out that we haven't been able to work out is, and on the model, these kind of look like radiator heaters. They're kind of like some kind of coolant thing on top of it. It's really hard to figure out what they are, and I think it might be something to do for the guns. Like there's some kind of cooling thing for the guns, but that's about as far as we've been able to kind of speculate on that. You'd kind of agree with me on that, wouldn't you, Hater?
Oh yeah, no. It's definitely like it's either cooling or some sort of weird design. I think just real quick, because I think we forgot to mention it earlier when we were talking about the flight deck stuff.
Yeah.
If you zoom in on that front cab, you could, because I think it's too visible from as far as you're out, but you could see that the amount of glass on that front cab there's barely any. Like,
yeah,
even
it's really
factoring in the amount of space, like this thing might not even fit as many people in the front as a Constellation. You got to remember that turret. It's like, think about it as big as a person. You might only have room for
one or two people.
You may only have 3 people up there. Yeah.
This is not glass at the top. It's just these 3 kind of panels for the top bit, and then the middle bit, and then you've got 3 in the bottom. So it is kind of very Constellation-y, that front piece. It's actually, from a physical stance, got a fatter head than the Polaris is in. It's more wider than it is taller, but it is obviously actually physically smaller because this ship's smaller than a Polaris. So yeah. Anything else you want to go over? I don't think I can think of anything else that I'd want to add, man.
I'm just taking a look at some of the source images because it's just easier to extrapolate something. I mean, like, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, the only thing I can really think of, and is just to reiterate, like, the images clearly hint at some sort of bottom deck. When this thing is revealed properly, like, this thing is definitely. So
you're talking to like down here where the gun deck is. There's some kind of gun deck thing down here, and I do agree with that. I kind of get the in Star Wars Episode 3 how they have all those ships fighting each other in that opening scene. I'm getting the feeling that they're going to have some kind of guns hanging out here. Like I just like portholes or something. But yeah, again, with the images we've been given, we just don't have the details. But
I think the best way to think about it is that the engine. Despite the fact the images don't really give out too much, is pretty well scaled, which the best, and usually these ships are made to land. Like when a ship's like around 100, 150 meters, it's made to land on a planet. If this ship wants to land, that landing gear isn't going to be as long as the ship itself. It's going to be like something feasible. So that landing gear is connected to something in order to get it to land properly on the ground. And that leads me to believe that we're missing a big deck. Like, this kind of design itself kind of hints towards only like 1 deck. But this thing is definitely 2 decks, possibly even 3.
Yeah.
Well, who knows?
Again,
this might be the RSI hammerhead.
Yeah,
well,
that's probably the best way to put it.
Actually, that is actually, isn't that something we heard? It was the RSI version of the hammerhead. I'm pretty sure we heard that at some point.
I don't think we heard that. I think we just speculated it, and now we're just gonna act like we heard it.
That works. Yeah, we'll just make it up as we go along. Clearly it's a more combat focused craft. And obviously the hammerhead's got turrets, but this is going to be more like rail guns or whatever it's going to be. So I think this is tailored more towards capital ships or mid-range ships, where the hammerhead is clearly focusing on fighters. So this is for me, this is a ship I've been waiting for. And I currently have 2 Polarises, and I'll probably turn one of those Polaris's into this. Dig and Hater, like, just give me some speculation on how much you reckon this thing's going to cost, based on the fact that it's, somewhere around 120 meters, or 100 to 150 meters, somewhere in that ballpark. How much you reckon it's going to cost, Dig?
How much is the Polaris?
Polaris is currently it was concept 650, currently 750. Hammerhead was 550, now 650. So that's kind of where I'm picturing it. 550 to 750.
I'll let DigThat go first.
Dig?
I don't know. I think it's going to be, personally, 600, because you got to remember, because of this priority towards not giving up these multi-crew like objects, we're going to when it's revealed as a concept, because I do not think this thing will be flight ready. They don't do this big. I'm going to be majorly surprised if this thing's a flight ready release. But if it's straight up just revealed as a concept, I'd imagine it. I actually would imagine it less than. Yeah, actually, no, scratch that. Just only like $20, $50 more than whatever the Hammerhead was on concept. Just because this is essentially the same role, except it's like cut back, but also cut forward a little. It really depends on whether or not they want to hammer in those component choices on here, because the components are better than the Hammerhead, but it's just less useful.
I'd be expecting them to release it around the same price as, say, the Hammerhead and the Nautilus initially, because they've been deliberately putting ships at the same price so you can't upgrade from them to force you to spend your cash. So currently the Nautilus and the Hammerhead are 650, so I'd be expecting it at 650 just to stop you from upgrading from a Hammerhead or a Nautilus. It's just something they've been doing lately. So that's what I'm expecting, is right on 650.
Good guys, CIG getting every dollar they need.
Think about these big ships that require a bunch of crew. Like, I mean, they look good when you first start looking at them, but then as you play the game, you start figuring out that it's tough to crew a ship. It's tough to get people in there, and I know they're supposed to have NPCs that could do that for you, but like right now, some of the ships I got are just kind of useless because it's hard to build up a crew. And so I think that maybe you have to think about that when they start pricing these things out. Is their value proposition is that it's a beast and you can get a bunch of people in here, but it's tough to get those people. Because even like I had my first org battle, we did a commission fight, and most of the people just brought their own ship rather than grouping up in like a few single ships.
It's kind of like what you hinted to at the start. Like it won't be until this patch that's coming up in 3.10 where turrets are actually kind of a lot more viable. So hopefully we'll see that going forward, Dig. I was asking before, how much do you think this price ship's going to cost when it comes out on sale?
I know.
Dig?
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you heard me the first time. I was thinking about $750, but I don't know. We might have to go a little bit lower, like the price is right into that mid-6, high-6 range, just because we've got the Hammerhead out. This is probably a competitor to that, so you got to kind of price them competitively. So we'll see.
All right. Anything else you gentlemen would like to add? I think we'll wrap it up here. No,
I think Dig, you should probably advertise your channel again, because that's a nice wrap-up point.
My name is DigThat32 in the building. Like and subscribe. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like to be that guy.
Oh, you can do it for us. You can advertise for us and tell people to like and subscribe to us. Yeah, that works. Do that.
No. Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good point. This is what you guys is third, fourth? Is it third or fourth video?
Third episode. Video. Yeah.
You guys are going to be huge once people start catching on. So definitely tune in. They got some interesting things that nobody else has the ability to offer you as far as content. So definitely give them a look-see.
Wait, Dig, I actually do need to ask you one thing. You got to say it. You know the thing you always say. Come on.
Hey, you.
Okay, the other thing, the boss thing.
Okay, my name is DigThat32, and we out here like a boss.
Yeah.
All right. He's been Hater. He's been DigThat. I've been Execute, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Adios.